Hiya, my second answer or my second response to Jennifer-Lynn's questions. Jennifer writes, has the ethical gems and jewellery movement lost any momentum over the last decade? My simple answer to that, Jennifer, is yes, it has. When you go back 10 years, there was quite a high level of optimism that we as small budding ethical jewellers were going to make a systemic change to the industry. Now, I think to a degree we did achieve that. The introduction of fair trade gold was a significant moment. The establishment of the Responsible Jewellery Council, which although was a separate thing, has certainly taken place and has certainly moved the language of ethical more mainstream into the wider jewellery trade as a whole. I think now as we fast forward 2016, I think ethical has become the new political status quo for the jewellery trade. Everybody talks ethical. Nobody can afford to be seen not to be ethical. And the overwhelming majority run to RJC for ethical coverage. I'm not saying that's a negative thing, it's just a pragmatic migration in many respects. There is certainly, however, a cul-de-sac of inertia that exists within the jewellery trade. It's the same people turning up at the same trade shows every year, talking about the same issues, all wanting to retain, maintain, reinforce consumer confidence in the product. And yet, and here is the critical yet, none of those people, none of those companies, none of those trade associations, none of those gemological associations are prepared to talk to the consumer about the ethical, social, environmental, human rights issues related to jewellery at its source. So it has become a rhetoric, a roundabout of rhetoric, reinforcing to the same people how good we are. And actually, do you know what? Let's be really straight and clear and honest. As a trade, we are not very good at disclosure. We are not very good at being honest about our sources. We are not very good about talking about the shoulders of the poor that our industry stands on. So we have inertia at the moment. We are in a cul-de-sac, a roundabout, as a trade on where to go next. And just to finish off with a very clear illustration of that, recently in New York, this month, there was a jewellery meeting, a jewellery summit of all the great and the good of the industry turning up to talk about ethical initiatives. Great, fantastic. The trouble is, it's the same people turning up at the same event 10 years on from the last one with the same agenda. And it will deliver the same outcomes. Why? Because we are not talking to customers directly. So that is my challenge to the trade. Stop talking to yourself and start talking to the consumer, because ultimately it is the consumer that is going to make the difference.